Looking at the basics, the fundamental, the ground, the foundation of Buddhist practice, this view of the mind being our own, not created, beginningless, not physical, got the subtler levels, and this marvellous potential. So the very first level, but given the end result, Buddha, free of all the delusions and full of all the goodness, as I said before, that implies the job to be done. That implies the entire job of being a Buddhist. So the actual job of being a Buddhist, which you link to the Buddhist approach, is when we get into the middle scope of the Lamb room, or as I was saying, high school, where you start to look into the delusions. In other words, the second cause of suffering, which is really the first. In the second level truth, there are causes. There's karma, past action, but driven by a delusion. So the two are subsumed to the one. Delusions are the key. Mind is the key for the Buddha. It is the creator of the universe. As cosmic as that might sound, that is literally true for the Buddha's view, So when you begin to work on your mind, that's when you become uniquely a Buddhist. Morality, virtue, not harming others, not the same logic as karma, but that's joy. That's a good communist would do that. A good Christian, a good materialist, a good Muslim would behave nicely. That's shared by everybody. But here, the second level, we get to the root of the problem, the delusions. Like I said, the body and speech are the servants of the mind, and that's the first level of practice, which is already pretty profound. Live in vows, control our body, control our speech, live in vows and purify. This is powerful practice, powerful. It gives us a massive foundation. Then we can really begin to grow, then we can begin to seriously get meditation, learn shamatha, and really do the job of being our own therapist, as Ramesh would phrase it, In other words, if we have berserk behaviour, it is not possible to get shamatha. It is not possible to even try to sit for 5 minutes and work on your mind. It's not possible. Not possible. So what is it? What's this shamatha, this technique of the Buddhas? Actually, it came from the Hindus. This brilliant genius scholars and yogis and amazing thinkers. They're the ones who created this technique. As the Dalai Lama said, it was more than 3,000 years ago, probably even before that, he knows his business, he knows his history. They're the ones who began the investigation into the nature of self. That's the job. And this technique comes from that. Extraordinary technique. If we really understood it, and it's fascinating. Western materialist scholars and scientists would be actually absolutely blown out if they began to study Buddhist psychology. But of course you have to posit the possibility of not talking about the brain, which is what blocks them, It's an incredibly sophisticated view of the mind. And all the knowledge of it is coming from internal investigation, not with a microscope on the brain, but from internal microscope, your own mind at a subtle level. It's hard for us to even conceptualize, So Ramesh talks about it in his book, Mahamudra. We hear about this type of meditation. Dzogchen, for example, is a variation of this. It's one of the techniques in, like Nima, sometimes Kargyupas use this. But Mahamudra is the version that the Kargyupas and the Gulupas use, Tsongkhapas. So this commentary that Lama gave, which is this book which he taught about right here, in a smaller place, over there, I think. No, it wasn't. It was a little church that was around somewhere when it was still that Sandhurst town. And he taught it. And he gave the highest level transnunciation the first time. He gave Haruka, first time in Australia, I think, the highest level transnunciation. Because that's a prerequisite for receiving the Mahamudra teachings. So Mahamudra has got two levels, the Sutra practice and then there's the Tantra. And in Tantra, the Mahamudra, the best one is called inner fire. It's taught at the more advanced level. But usually in the framework of even the Sutra practice, you give it in the context of receiving highest level transnunciation. So in this case, Haruka Lama gave, Haruka Chakra. So we're kind of leaping to emptiness now, so we'll go there maybe. But that's not really high school. High school is when you're dealing with the branch delusions. You look at these three. Ego grasping is the root delusion, and that's what's being conquered in this meditation, in insight meditation. And Mahmud is an example of a method of utilizing these two modes of meditation in Buddhism. Shamatha, which is called calm abiding or simply concentration meditation. And the second one is called insight or vipassana, but called special insight, which is a unique approach in the Mahayana tradition of getting insight into emptiness. The one, the vipassana that's popular in the world, was a technique that Lord Buddha taught. It's on the basis of getting concentration. You then use that focused mind to go to the insight type of meditation, and then you focus on the different sensations of the body. And Lord Buddha there wants us to get insight into impermanence. And that's why it's generally known as vipassana. But it means, as I use it, special insight, special insight they call it, which is insight into emptiness. It's a function of it's a more sophisticated level of insight meditation, vipassana. So, of course, in the Mahayana tradition, certainly the way the Tibetan Buddhist packaging all the teachings, Tsongkhapa's Lam Rim, shamatha, concentration, that is, actually it's not even a Buddhist teaching, it's a Hindu teaching, but the Buddhists use it, so they've got their own take on it. But that's taught in high school. That's the technique you use. If you want to graduate at high school, at the middle scope of the Lam Rim, in the wisdom wing, as we said before to Tony, you do the first level, live in vows, abide by the laws of karma, do your purification, go to the second level, get shamatha, and then you start to unpack and unravel your delusions, get renunciation, and eventually you realize emptiness. So it's a high school teaching. It's a middle scope teaching. And you must have that in order to achieve liberation from suffering. On the Hinayana level. But if you're practicing the Mahayana, then concentration is taken into the Mahayana, and it's taught at the most advanced levels of the Mahayana path in the framework of the 6 perfections of the Bodhisattva. And then the fifth and the sixth of the 6 perfections are concentration, and the 6th one is emptiness. So concentration and emptiness are taught back in high school, but here they're framed they're taught in the context of the 6 perfections of the Bodhisattva. And they're the 5th and the 6th of the 6. So Mahmud is this particular practice coming from Panchen Lama in the 17th century, the first Panchen Lama. And as Lama Yeshe says in his book here, that it was secret. It was taught with old lineage only from master to disciple. And then Panchen Lama wrote it down. It's a very short text. It's in the book. Very short, very sweet. And it's simply a method of utilizing these 2 modes of meditation. But the unique approach is that the concentration technique is the object that you use to focus on is the conventional nature of your mind, the nature of your mind. And eventually, with insight, it eventually leads to insight into the ultimate nature of your mind, which is its emptiness. So Rama had this marvellous approach with us Westerners, Westerners, to talk. He somehow was able to communicate in the way we communicate. It was quite extraordinary, because if you hear classic Tibetans teaching, it's literally coming from medieval, because they retain Buddhism so purely in Tibet that it's not even just medieval, it's pre-medieval. The constructs, the lineage of the teachings are so respected that they still talk as if they're still medieval. It's not criticising. It was kept intact, So we maniac Westerners with our modern way of talking come along, and somehow Lama Yeshe, with his extraordinary connection with us modern people, but he just understood somehow how to talk. It was quite extraordinary. It is really quite remarkable, the more you hear classical Tibetans talk, the way he presented the Dharma in the most down-to-earth, simple way. And he can be forgiven for thinking he was just this regular guy, but he was a great yogi, there's no question, and a scholar. He didn't get his Geshe degree. He left Tibet when he was 25, hadn't finished his studies. But he was a great scholar. Lama Zopa said he was a great yogi, all the realizations, But he talked so simply. Such a sweet way of talking. So compelling, I tell you. Even if he's not your Lama, you can appreciate. So all what he wanted us to do was get a taste, get an experience, And he was so powerful the way he taught, that somehow you felt when he taught, you felt that enlightenment was possible. That for me was really incredible, because when we can hear the teachings, it's so overwhelming, so intellectual, and there's different kinds of ways they give teachings. Like you'll have someone there's a text, and they give a very bare bones commentary on the text. It's not called an experiential teaching. You know, so it can be quite complex, especially philosophy. You really can see that. Then there's an experiential way of talking. Lama Yeshe Lama Zopa almost exclusively do that, you know. Lama Zopa might have a text he's going to teach on, and he starts on the first line of the motivation prayer, and 10 days later he hasn't gone past that. You understand? Isn't it? I mean, it's quite unique, you know. Lama Yeshe would still, I've edited a couple of Lama's books where he's used very classical texts, Tsongkhapa's text on Inner Fire, and then this Panchen Lama text. So you go back to the original text, and you have to, the best way to present the teaching, obviously, is to take the teaching, the Lama's teachings, and put it according to the order of the text. So you can see the way Lama taught was seemingly all over the place, but it was completely experiential. But the text is visible. And if you didn't know the text, you wouldn't know it. But it's clear, you know, extraordinary how he taught. So wishing to communicate, so wishing to inspire us. And all the time, all you can see in us pathetic Westerners, I mean, we're all pathetic altogether, the whole world, it's okay, we're all deluded. As if, you know, it was just how so much self-pity we had, so much self-loathing, which is self-pity, so much hopelessness, so much depression, so much I can't do it, not possible, I'm hopeless, that's not possible. You could see that so easily. He made immense effort to lift us, enormous effort, you know, and even when you read his books, you get that. Unbelievably kind, you know. But you can be forgiven for thinking that he wasn't a great scholar, because it's so seemingly so simple. So when you always want to get this experience, so for example, you rarely find that the lamas will just give a kind of easygoing commentary, for example, on some of the qualities you'd accomplish if you got single point of concentration. But the Lama does. So it's mind-boggling. I want to read you from it. It's mind-boggling. You go, what? Is that possible? They give you the words. If you read Pabonka, give you all the 9 stages of concentration, all the technical things. You don't get any kind of experience from it. The way Lama talks is like extraordinary, you know, just gives you inspiration. My goodness, I can do that too, you know. So I want to read to you some of Lama, what you'd be like if you got a single point of concentration. It's a short book, only about 100 pages. Chapter 5, the benefits of Samadhi are incredible. So without karma abiding, we cannot realize Mahamudra. As I mentioned, so Mahamudra is this term, okay, great seal, but it's used as a synonym for literally for emptiness, for non-duality. It's just a term they use to cultivate. As I mentioned, to achieve the realization of Mahamudra, the reality of non-duality, realizing emptiness, we first need to develop calm abiding. In fact, it is not possible without it. We must achieve the subtler levels of consciousness of an indestructible, one-pointed concentration, which in Sanskrit we call samadhi. So I think samadhi and shamatha aren't exactly synonymous. I think samadhi is even a more subtle level of concentration. I'm not quite sure, but he uses both terms. So shamatha is the usual one we know, which is the name of the technique that's called in English calm abiding. Shamatha is calm abiding, and it's the name of the technique, and it's the end result. So the technique is named in terms of the end result. You achieve calm abiding, and the technique in the text is described in terms of 9 stages of cultivation. So the Pabonka also says in the Lam Rim, that if you're really qualified, you can get it in 6 months, you know. But to even be ready to get to the mountains to get it, you're already pretty intense. I mean, our friend Venerable Robina, he's a Swiss monk. He's been meditating for 40 years since he first became a monk. I don't know if he's ever been to Australia. Has he? Do we have him here in Australia? No? Anyway, he lives in the States. He's teaching all the time. In constant retreat, in and out of retreat. So I interviewed him in Mandala magazine in 1995 about one of his 2.5-year retreats at our centre in Spain, Ursa, where Lama Ursa was born, Lama Yeshe's reincarnation. And so he said this retreat was 2.5 years, and it was doing single point of concentration. He said at the end, he maybe touched upon the 5th of the 9 stages. So there he goes, 2.5 years and the 5th of the 9 stages. So it's kind of intense. But and he said there was no way he would have been qualified to even begin this kind of retreat, because you're in meditation 8, 10, 12 hours a day, only doing this technique, nothing else. and you're not doing any study, you're fully developed, you're fully focusing on this technique. Your meditation, trying to get concentration. It's incredibly rigorous. You need incredible discipline. And you need to be advanced. You need to have, there are various prerequisites stated in the text. Pabonka says you've got to be completely given up any attachment to food. Look at our neuroses around food. We're unbelievable, Couldn't care less what you eat. You eat whatever you're given. Completely given up any attachment to sex, drugs, rock and roll, husbands, wives, mortgages, dogs, cats, houses, and everything else we have. No people that you're responsible to. You just can't walk away from somebody. You've got no responsibilities, no mortgages, none of that. Completely gone. Your mind has not any interest in that. You're not forcing it away. It just hasn't arise in your mind, He said there's no way he could have done that retreat, even begun to do it without having first been a monk and living in vows, second, doing lots of purification practices, and even studying, masses of study of the Dharma, of philosophy, of the mind, and not only that, but also having to teach. Without all of that, he said he would not have been able to go to the mountains. And this is something when we think about meditation, there's such kind of grotesquely, absurdly simplistic understandings of meditation in our culture. And that's okay, what to do. And as long as he says here, if you're not qualified, you go to meditate and you end up in a psychiatric hospital. That's not a joke. Because who knows about their mind? We don't even look at it. And suddenly you think, I can meditate. You sit down, you often go to some people. Normally we go nuts because we have no idea what is inside here. Because remember the Buddha would say everything we've ever seen, done, tasted, touched, smelled and thought about is stored in here. And once you even sit down with your eyes closed, God knows what's going to come up. And as we have no analysis of what it all is, no understanding of where it all comes from, because we identify with all the craziness, because craziness will come up, people lose the plot. They go nuts, It's not being superstitious, it's true. Or you've got some past karma with meditating, like a friend I had in prison. He had obviously some ability to concentrate. He was able to go into deep, subtle concentration very easily. He literally thought he was enlightened. He just completely went berserk. He thought he was enlightened. No one I can think of in prison went completely crazy. Because you have no idea what's going on, because they don't understand what attachment is. There's this insane over-exaggeration of in this case, your own specialness. And talk about bipolar, you go completely berserk, No way of understanding anything, no understanding of the mind, no names for anything, no understanding what it is, where it comes from, nothing. No understanding of karma, so you're not qualified, And mind's a powerful, powerful, powerful thing. Now, with respect, the little bit that I know, based on my understanding of neuroscience, there's very little understanding of it, with respect. But these amazing Indians in the Buddhist sense, unbelievably sophisticated presentation of the way the internal, actual cognitive process works. It's extraordinary, Amazing model of the mind. Not that I know much, excuse me. Who am I to talk, Some highly developed neuroscientist would say so insulting. I'm sounding so rude. So in terms of prerequisites, Venerable Robina said, in the text they say, have to be given up attachment, all the things that he said that he had accomplished, then you may be ready to go to the mountains. But then you've got to have the right physical conditions. You get very sensitive to the environment. And Robina said he knew where he was in the centre in Spain. It's a beautiful place. Dalai Lama, His Holiness, blessed it in 1982 when he went there. And I was travelling with a group, and he blessed it. He said it was just up the mountain of Tibet. He named it as a Ling, place of clear light. Beautiful place to meditate, he said. So special, up in the Sierra Nevada in Spain. But Rene said he said, as your mind gets more subtle, and he got to maybe the 5th of the 9 stages, he said, up in the mountains there. He said, even the tiniest shift in the wind, in the air, and in the weather can completely, you're so sensitive, your mind's so sensitive, especially when you're a new meditator. And he knew he couldn't get his mind to become more subtle. So many prerequisites for a place to meditate. One is to have, it needs to be very peaceful, clean, unpolluted, not near running water, not near wild animals, because that's the energy of running water, which we think is so romantic. Even the wind is too strong sometimes. Forget about running water, completely distressing for the mind. It could be really peaceful, really quiet, no wild animals, very safe, very pure, pristine, clean food, clean water. You've got to have good friends to support you, because blessed you don't have to spend your time cooking, so you can meditate all day. Or if you like, yes, on a controg, This amazing Lama of ours, and he spent years and years up in the mountains after he left Tibet in 59. Lama Zopa said he lived in Vajrayagini's Pure Land. It was amazing. He spent the last 20 years of his life in Kopan. But he was a great tantric yogi. He lived up in the mountains and naked, no food, no clothes, no sleep. Because he didn't need it. Because there's a pill, the Tibetan doctors make a pill, and the Lamas use it, called Chulen, which they take the essence from all the minerals and then etc. put in these little pills, and the meditators can live on these. You get very skinny, but you get the nourishment you need because their minds are very refined. Their body doesn't need much food, you know. But he didn't even need that. He lived on what they call wind chulen. He was able to extract the essence from the air itself. He lived for years like this, naked in caves. So he was a great tantric yogi, so he had complete control over his subtle physical energies, his subtle mental energies. He was able to retain heat, living up in 6 foot of snow in the winter. Extraordinary being. So he meditated day and night, no wasting time, you know. So Rene said, when I interviewed him, he said that also the key prerequisite, the best condition for the place to be conducive for meditation is when it's been blessed by the presence of previous meditators, holy beings. So Kathmandu, if you've been to Kathmandu, you know it's a smelly, polluted place, okay? Well, the Tibetans love Kathmandu. For them, it's a blessed, pure place, unbelievable. So, you know, Kopan Monastery, when I first went there, it was relatively peaceful. The valley had no buildings at all. But if you've been to Kopan, it's covered in buildings. And you have the dogs in the morning, all the Hindus and their prayers to Shiva shouting out loud at 4 in the morning. Nothing wrong, they're wonderful, they're devoted. But it ain't quiet, you know. Well, Venerable Rene said, when I interviewed him in Kopan in 95, he said his mind got more subtle more easily at Kopan because it's blessed by the presence of holy beings. So it's very interesting that. Even though it was noisy, you know. Anyway, I'll read you some of the qualities that you would accomplish, having accomplished single point of concentration. But I'll tell you, even when I get to a little bit, you know, when I got to maybe the 5th, okay, I'll tell you some things. So it's difficult to realise non-duality, not because it's hiding from us, but because our concepts are so thick. So we must refine our concepts. We must achieve subtle mindfulness, subtle awareness, and subtle clarity. Otherwise, there's no way we can see the unconscious levels of ego grasping and an independent self. Not possible. Samadhi, or concentration, is the source of liberation. Without perfect samadhi, then there is no way to become liberated from samsara and no way to achieve enlightenment. There is no exception, whether Christian, Muslim, Hindu or Buddhist. To cut the dualistic view, we need karma binding. But karma binding is not enough. On the other hand, some people actually think that this state of samadhi, this one-pointed concentration, is all we need to cut ego. But that's wrong. Namadakapa reminds us that karma binding alone is not enough to cut the dualistic view. We also need to develop special insight, or vipassana in Sanskrit. In Tibetan we call it hlak tong. Hlak means extra and tong means seeing. We can interpret this to mean that we go beyond seeing conventional reality and achieve the extra seeing of the universal reality of Mahamudra. In other words, we need the two kinds of meditation together, karma binding and special insight. The benefits of samadhi are incredible. So nevertheless, even without special insight, the results of samadhi alone are unbelievable, almost unimaginable. When we understand this, when we realize how amazing the results are, we cannot help but try to develop it. There is no way we become lazy. We will have much energy and make great effort. We won't even worry about eating. I'll explain some of the benefits. You go beyond sensory and conceptual consciousness. So right there, that's kind of, oh yeah, that's religion. Don't be ridiculous. Because we only posit sensory and conceptual in our culture, don't we? That's not always being rude. I mean, I know as a scientist I met, she said, you know, we're only limited by our tools and by our assumptions. She accepts that, you know. So if you have the view that it's the brain, then clearly you can't posit a thing that's beyond the brain. You just can't. It's just contradiction. That's why these discussions with the Dalai Lama and all the Tibetans are forcing modern scientists to go beyond their assumptions and even look at the possibility of there being subtler consciousness, which is marvellous. It's fantastic. That's why he's so amazing, His Holiness, so humble. He doesn't sit in his ivory tower thinking, I know everything, and these stooty-nosed Westerners down there. He's incredible, His kindness, his unbelievable intelligence, unbelievable kindness and wanting to connect, wanting to bring people together, both religion and science is amazing. And because of that, there's so much that's being published now from the Indian literature for the world to see. As your concentration develops, you go beyond your body. Your mind will be non-conceptual, so it becomes easy to cut the complex world of the five sense objects, to eliminate the superstitions. In such a unified state, your mind becomes so subtle, so sharp, you can easily eradicate the complex dualistic thoughts. You can touch reality. This is the feature of samadhi. And out of meditation, you can easily deal with your delusions. They are so light, you can stop them immediately. So think about that for a second, please. We know that from the second we wake up in the morning until the second we go to sleep, our mind is in an uncontrolled, never ceasing, uncontrolled series of thoughts. We all know this, and that's what we consider in our culture normal. There are no techniques in our culture to work with that, and this is exactly what this technique is, When you've got concentration, even less than the 9 stages, even at the 5th already, you're incredible already. You have effortless control over every single thought. Please try and hear that. That's insanity as far as we're concerned. This is 3,000 years old, people, okay? You experience bliss. It sounds like naughty. In the subtle state of concentration, you experience bliss, ecstatic bliss. Lama kind of knew these words. God knows where he got them from, just naturally. The more concentration you have, the more integrated you are, and thus the more rapture, the more bliss you experience. So the thought about this is mind-boggling again. Buddha's point about the nature of mind, the actual nature of our mind, just even conventionally, forget emptiness, not physical, is when we have subdued it even to some degree, when the delusions are less, when the virtues are more, then just naturally, the mind is happy. So, okay, let's look at this. What is happiness? What is bliss, rapture, ecstasy, happy, pleasure, content? These are all variations of pleasant states of mind. Then you've got suffering and terrible pain and unpleasant states of mind. These are called feeling. In the third category of states of mind in Buddhist psychology, in this one that I call the mechanics, there's one that's called feeling. So don't misunderstand. Now this doesn't mean emotion like we think. It's literally it's neither virtuous nor non-virtuous. It's simply called feeling, and there's 3 kinds only that we ever experience. Pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, and then neutral feelings. Forget the neutral, please. We don't want to know about those. We have got unpleasant and pleasant, and this is the point. This is just the way we are. And of course, what we want is pleasant feelings. So attachment's job is to find objects such that when we have contact with it, pleasure is triggered. That's samsara. Now, Buddha's saying that's fine. When you get contact with the cake, when your eye contacts the pleasant object, when your ear contacts the pleasant sound, when your body contacts the other pleasant tactile object, especially that one, so-called sexual pleasure, it triggers a pleasant feeling. Pleasure is neither good nor bad. Pleasure's not wrong. The more pleasure, the better, dear, as Lama Yeshe says. So our problem is this. I'm going to get into why attachment is causing us suffering. We can sort of see it to some degree. This is the second kind of suffering, the suffering of change. We learn about this in high school. So the moment, being these junkies, being driven by attachment, this main delusion, this is frantic, unhappy, dissatisfied junkie in us, therefore is always hungry for something, therefore always searching for certain objects, depending on our karma, whether it's to have a body or clocks or flowers or sounds or killing or stealing, whatever the habit is. Attachment's job is to find those objects, and then we have to make contact with those objects with our body and through our senses, and then when it all comes together, a pleasant feeling is triggered. This is logical. So, logically, we know that the only way we can get a pleasant feeling is we need an object to trigger it. We don't just sit there having bliss every second. You might wake up one morning feeling very pleasant, think, oh, this is a nice gift, and suddenly a mean noise comes along and you lose it. It's so fragile. So we know that this is the logic of samsara, or the lack of logic, that what we think pleasure is, and pleasure is another word for happiness. Happiness, happy feelings, pleasant feelings, and then on the spectrum, very pleasant feelings, divine pleasant feelings, ecstasy, rapture, you name it. It's a spectrum of pleasant feelings. And attachment's job is to find the object, because that's the only way we know how to get pleasant feelings, by contacting an object of the senses. That's our method. That's samsara. Buddha's not complaining, he's not being moralistic. He says, fine, it does trigger a pleasant feeling. He agrees. But all he's saying is, it's polluted pleasure. And don't hear that in moralistic terms. It's very gross pleasure. It's very unstable pleasure. It kind of shakes. It's not stable. The mind is very frantic. And the tragedy is, it doesn't last. We know this so well, we kind of get annoyed with Buddha for telling us, well, we know it doesn't last. What choice do we have? We don't know any other methods. But this is his point. He says, you know, babes, I've found a method to get such pleasure you wouldn't believe it. And it won't change into suffering. That's what he's saying. So the nature of our mind is unencumbered by delusions, not even just single point of concentration. We've had this in countless lives, Buddha says. We've had samadhi, we've had rapture, we've had bliss, we've had clairvoyance, countless lives. We've been these Hindus in the formless realm. We've gone as far as we can, but we haven't cut the root of the delusions by using this mind. So we keep falling down again. Our mind has the natural potential to the degree that even temporarily it is unencumbered by delusions. It is blissful. And single point of concentration is a method to get us to taste that. It's not enough. It won't last. It'll run out until you use that laser-like focus to realize emptiness and cut the root of delusions. Then it will never change into suffering. It's the nature of our mind to be blissful and clear. It's its natural state. It's not some gift from God. So what he's saying about us, we think happiness, pleasant feelings, are what we get when attachment gets what it wants. That's the only method we know. He says, no, babes, I've found a method. Happiness, bliss, whatever you like, is what you get when you give up attachment and finally realize emptiness. So in samadhi meditation, you taste that clarity, you taste that bliss, you taste it. Even, Renee said, very humbly, when you meditate, you don't talk about your experiences, but I think it's very powerful, especially for us Westerners, modern people, to hear people like us who got this, not just Tibetans living in the mountains abstract, but ordinary people like you and me. He's Swiss, my friend. When he can say, he's a very humble, very amazing person. And he said, he maybe touched upon the 5th of the 9 stages of single point of concentration. And he said there's no question that the joy, I forget the words he used, the pleasure, the joy that he experienced was so superior to any pleasure he ever experienced through his senses. Because that's the only one we know. That's the only one we know. And the other point is the other quality of this bliss they talk about is that it's completely peaceful. This is very weird, because you think of pleasure, any pleasure we have through our senses, even a delicious cake, look at your mind, really excited. Forget about sexual pleasure, the usual one that we think is most intense pleasure. The mind, which we go berserk, physically, you go berserk. Nobody has sex quietly. I'm not being gross here, please forgive me. Look at the pleasure that does trigger that kind of contact. It is kind of absolutely out of control, absolutely extremely berserk, and it lasts for like a second. This rapture, this bliss, this ecstasy, this pleasant feelings is totally peaceful and has got zero to do with any contact with any object, because it's just the nature of our mind to the degree that it's unencumbered by delusions, even temporarily in single point of concentration. That's why when people who've got some karma to meditate from past lives, taste it, they go mad because they believe they're enlightened. They don't know how to understand it. They suddenly get bliss, and you go bonkers. I remember one woman in Queensland came to a retreat, Tara, and she sat down for the first time, and she got bliss. So of course she thought she was being spiritual. Well, she was like a little junkie. She couldn't be quick enough to sit on the cushion to get more bliss. As long as I said, one fellow during a Vajrasattva retreat, he was in the corner of the room with his mouth hanging open. Because he has so much bliss, so you can, I must be holy, I've got bliss, Well, no, much better, as Songsan Khenpo says, it's going to have pleasure with somebody, have a full body massage, much better. Bliss is not spiritual. Bliss is just the natural state of your mind, but because we're so greedy, and you haven't worked on your attachment, and you don't even know what attachment is, you naturally think you're special, and you go bonkers. I know one fellow in Dharamsala years ago, a Brazilian, Australian. He had the ability, we're going to touch on it here, he had the ability to be clairvoyant. Being in your mind can have the experience of being in other places. It doesn't go there. You're still staying in your body. We talk about even out-of-body experiences. Your mind doesn't leave the body. This is your subtle mind. And that happens naturally when you've got concentration. So when you've got clairvoyance, your mind literally has this experience of expanding and cognizing things in a long distance. So he'd go to after the course, he'd go to bed every night, and he'd say he went to Africa, he'd go to Melbourne, go see his girlfriend. His mind had the ability to be in other places. His mind was in his body, but mind can expand when it's not dependent upon the brain. So he thought he was the ants' pants. He thought he was enlightened. He thought it was so boring, getting that boring old attachment and boring old anger. Because he just went berserk, attachment, I'm so special. The two friends I know in prison, one went completely crazy, and one really believed he was enlightened and wrote to Lama Zopa. Lama Zopa ignored it, gave him 4 million prostrations to do instead. Help sentient beings, that's what you practice, not concentration. So unless you know what you're doing, and you've got some renunciation, you go potty. Meanwhile, let's see how vicious the bliss is. Let's see. Are we communicating here? Good. So in the subtle state of concentration, rapture, blah, blah. In the beginning, the blissful experience is physical, which is the grosser level. But as your concentration deepens, as you throw off the layers of blankets of grosser consciousness, you experience bliss exclusively at the mental level. We don't get that. This is because you've stopped perceiving the objects of the 5 senses. You've closed the door to all the superstitions. All the contradictory concepts have disappeared. Your mind is now crystal clear. As if you could count every atom. As your concentration gets stronger and you reach ever subtler levels, your mind becomes super powerful. From his own experience, Lama Tsongkhapa says that you can reach a point of such clarity in your meditation that your mind feels almost infinite. Your mind is so clear, so sharp, it's as if you can distinguish all the subtle physical energies. You have the courageous thought, I can count all the atoms of the universe. This level of mind is more powerful than even scientific instruments. Now I think I'm showing pride in Buddhism, Lama said. But some of them have a taste of that, We don't know where it comes from or why we've got it or what to do with it. Because we've done meditation in the past, that's why. And that's why we've got some karma connection with this stuff and got a very powerful mind. This is what people this is what people are labelled autistic. Don't get me going about the Western view of the mind. Excuse me, I have to be very careful, otherwise I'll get very rude and swear. And, it's common, for example, a good example, one of my friends, Karina, her boy, Tibetan Dechen, he's got a Tibetan name, Dechen, when he was about 2 or 1 even, 2 showed the aspect of being super intelligent. Wild, uncontrolled, wild kid. Up at 5 in the morning, bed at 10 at night. Super intelligent, super focused, but really kind of this massive big mind that he couldn't contain. But by the time he's 2, he's on the internet, kind of, learning numbers backwards in Spanish, and you understand just all this cleverness, what we call in the world autistic. You understand? High level autistic. That's what the world calls it. So he was diagnosed as this, and Karina was really well. I said, for God's sake, Karina, talk to Lama Zopa, for goodness sake, So he gave him all these practices to do, memorize. So he memorized the Heart Sutra, memorized the 3 principal aspects of the path, memorized all this and that. He was an incredible little boy. He began to harness this energy, this crazy, powerful mind. And then I said, once you send a photo up to the Tibetan doctor, these Tibetan doctors, they're lamas, they're yogis, they're clairvoyant, and they know the body intimately. So he sent a photo and a few symptoms. And he wrote back, he said, yeah, that's how yogis behave. Do you understand? So she saw, real relief here. He seemed insane, berserk energy, because these little minds are brilliant, amazing little people with incredibly intelligent minds. A yogi's mind isn't some kind of spaced out, hippie, trippy thing. They're super laser-like clear, laser-like sharp, with a massive ability to have knowledge. Like one of these so you've got to harness that, It's got to be harnessed. It can make you crazy, it can. So if you don't harness it, it's a massive energy, but it can be contained and can be utilised. But the fundamental starting point is discipline. You can't contain a berserk mind without discipline. It's obvious. That's why you have to live in vows and have a practice and have discipline every day. Practice, do some prostrations, do some water bowls, do some purification practices to subdue this berserk energy of ours, so we can then channel this energy in our meditation and get realizations. Yogis' minds are powerful. That's how yogis behave, he said. So now he's about 13, 14, and it's all gone into science, of course. He had his own little YouTube channel, and you see when he was 7 or 8, with his impeccable English, as he's thinking, he's this perfect English, no ums and ahs, super, super clear, all about the science, everything you read about the sky, the way water is, the way, he knew that he has this brilliant mind for facts, That's a yogi's mind. That's a yogi's mind. But unless you contain that and channel it and harness it, you go mad. That's what the world calls autistic, Excuse me. Thank goodness for these Tibetan lamas. Be joyful. When you arise from meditation, you feel liberated instead of uncertain and full of doubts and conflicts. You experience inner peace. You always have a happy, joyful vibration. In fact, you continuously experience tremendous pleasure. Now the pleasure of chocolate is nothing to you. What you can now experience with your mind is super. It's like another realm, another dimension. And when your senses do come into contact with their objects, of course, you experience bliss then too. But you hardly even notice whether it's night or day. Actually, even now, when you have samsaric happiness, you have a similar kind of experience. You dance and drink all night, intoxicated with the pleasure. Time just flies. Excuse me. Well, this is what happens when you're intoxicated with the blissful experience of samadhi. And of course, this shows that time is not fixed from the outside. It's made up by your mind. Your body feels so light. They talk about you have a certain kind of physical pliancy, they call it. The mind and the body, a certain level of pliancy. Your mind, effortless, completely effortless in your control, but the body as well, like as if it's like a feather. Like a feather, like as if you have no body at all. You develop clairvoyance. Lama Tsongkhapa says that you will develop clairvoyance. According to the Abhidharma teachings, there are two kinds. One is what we understand as intuition, an untrained sense that we all have to some extent. For example, you might feel strongly, without any logical proof, that something has happened to your dear friend back home. The other can be gained by training the mind in meditation, as we're discussing here. You're able to see long distances as well as other people, including their minds. So that's what happens, like this boy, the Brazilian. We tend to think we call it astral travel, or even out-of-body experiences. The experience you have as if you're floating above your body, but your mind hasn't left the body, it's still there. If it left the body, you'd be dead. But your subtle consciousness, which is what they talk about in Tantra, and this is what we're talking here, your subtle consciousness has that capacity. Some people have these experiences in their dreams, because that's your subtle consciousness. Because we don't know how to harness it all, don't understand it all. But clairvoyance is a really common experience among ordinary people all the time. That's the capacity of your mind. And why and how can you be clairvoyant? Especially of the future. That sounds very fatalistic to us. It's very simple. When you know the laws of karma, you know that you sowed seeds in the past, and those seeds were going to ripen at a certain time. This is logic. If you know you've sowed certain seeds in your garden, and I don't know anything about botany, what I see as a barren ground, and you proceed to tell me how your garden will look in 10 years. Now, that's logical given the laws of botany, and as long as no other laws intervene, like, storms, you can logically tell me how the garden will look in 10 years, because you know the laws of botany. You won't be surprised, but I'll go, oh, wow, you're clairvoyant, Justin, you see into the future? No, you'll say, I just know the laws of botany, duh, But that's karma, the same. So of course you can be clairvoyant about the future. And the Buddha says you can't begin to help sentient beings until you are clairvoyant. Knowing the past, so you can see what's causing, and knowing what the future will be, so you guide people skillfully. We've got to really think about this. It doesn't make sense to us at all. Because we think everything's just random. We think every day is a brand new day, you know, like if no one knows what's going to happen. No, it's just we're stupid, that's all. Because we can't see it past our own noses. We've got no wisdom. So this is natural. Clairvoyance is a natural consequence of practice. We've had it countless lives, what it says. And to really help sentient beings, you need it, no question. But it's a natural consequence of just single point of concentration. No big deal. You're able to see long distances, including the minds. At first, your experiences seem a bit like a dream. But the more your concentration develops, the more clearly you can see, just as you would if you were there in person. This kind of clairvoyance is not imagining something. It's real, in the present, not a fantasy. This is the natural capacity of consciousness at a subtle level. Natural. And these Indians discovered this. And developed techniques to harness the mind. It's so astonishing to think about it. And there's nothing like that, obviously, in our culture, because we only discuss the brain. That's where it's limited. So, of course, to get single point of concentration, like I said with Renee, you've got to be deadly serious. You've got to go beyond it, have living vows, lots of practice, lots of purification, lots of study. You've got to know the teachings, know about the mind. You can't just leap off and do it. That's naive. And have enormous discipline, enormous will and wish to do it. All the right conditions. So many things have to come together to do that. So marvellous, aspire for it, aspire. Most, 99% of us as Buddhists won't do it, because we've got husbands, wives, children, mortgages, things, responsibilities, whatever, even amongst the nuns. There's no way in this life I'm going to be bothering to do that. There's no way I'm qualified. There's no way I know I've got to do other things first. In this life I want to practice merit and create virtue, so maybe next life I'll be ready to do it. That's okay. Long-term view is fine. Next life is fine. Got to choose what's best for us in this life. So Renee, as soon as he met the teachings, that he knew he had to do that. He went straight off. He's been doing it for 40 years, off and on. He teaches and does meditation throughout the year, We've got to know what's right for all of us. So it's marvellous that more and more people like Alan Morris are teaching these things now, proper qualified people. I mean, lots of people just make this stuff up and do their own trip, which is fine, but don't think it's Buddhism. It's not. So we've got to be very correct and get the right teachers, This is marvellous. To get a taste of our own mind. But to get concentration. Unless you're a high yogi already, I remember when I was editing Mandala, and Lama Zopa every now and again would send me letters from his disciples to his students to publish in Mandala anonymously. And one, there's this nun we all know who's quite famous called Pemo. Does anybody know here who knows Pemo? Nobody knows Pemo? She's a famous American nun. No. But I love Pemo, she's my dear friend. What you meet when you meet Pemo is like a bag lady. She sounds very neurotic, she was complaining, moans about everybody, sounds like a neurotic old lady. Right? Well, she was in retreat for years in the stead of Lama Zopa's near Big Sur, way up into the mountains in California. Rinpoche was looking for years for a decent meditation retreat place for concentration meditation up in the mountains. Someone gave him 500 acres up in way up northern California. He said even the birds are quiet. So people full-time meditating there. So she was there for several years. And for many, she was spending 20 years trying to find the conditions to get so she could do meditation. So she wrote this letter, and I was editing Mandala, and it blew my mind, this letter. It blew my mind. When she explained her experiences, she was clearly a high tantric yogini. She was absolutely extraordinary experiences. And I said to myself, oh, she must have changed. Well, no, because we just like to think a dakini looks cute. They make you happy. Pemo just makes you miserable. I mean, it's not Pemo, excuse me. Hello, Pemo. She has the aspect of sounding like a weird, strange, demented person. She always has a bag so big, with her bottles and plastic bags. She's never without it wherever she goes, and when she goes to teach, she almost needs another cushion just for her bag. She's like a bag lady, I promise you. These experiences are absolutely extraordinary in this letter. So, Holly, Lama Zopa's disciple, his attendant, she said to Rinpoche, people know who it is now. And Rinpoche said, good, now they know who she really is. But she was still like a wacky old lady. Just not like what we think is a yogini, making us happy, you know. So who knows? They have a saying in Tibetan, you don't know who anybody is, so don't judge. So she, with certain qualities. Another person, a different kind of example. This fellow is like a nice fellow, just a pleasant fellow. Didn't have a husband, didn't have a wife, didn't have children, lived in his house, taking care of his old auntie who had cancer. So the world would feel sorry for him. But actually, he was a highly evolved bodhisattva with these extraordinary meditation experiences. He wrote Rinpoche about them. But this blissful, clear, friendly fellow, pleasant, nice fellow, you know. So clearly these people can do it like in their spare time almost, as you say, you know. Because they came with already realizations. So we have to know what's right for each of us. And because we mightn't get shamatha in this life, you don't say, oh, I can't do that, that's kind of laziness. I want to do that, may I achieve that, and you start the ball rolling. So even if you start every day 5 minutes with the wish to sow the seeds to get shamatha, whenever it's right, powerful. And anyway, there's another whole discussion here, but the benefit for us in this life of doing shamatha isn't to get concentration. We won't, most of us. We'll get some semblance of it, possibly. But for me, the real benefit of beginning to do concentration meditation is that you've developed some skill to step out of your head. So therefore, you bring to bear the benefit of that bit of morning meditation into your daily life. So normally speaking, when you've never looked at your mind, let's think of ordinary life, you know, you've got a house with kids and husbands and whatever. We all pay attention only to the outside. So there you are, dealing with the kids, doing the dishes, worrying about work, anxious, you're late, the car, this, the traffic, and we can feel all the anxiety building, but we never pay attention to it because we don't know how. But we're noticing it coming, we're noticing it there, but we're dealing with the external world. That's normal, that's normal. So you're driving a car, you know the anxiety's building, you can't control it, you don't know what's happening, a car nearly hits you, you lose the plot. That's typical, that's normal world, right? So, if you even begin to do some concentration every day, or any kind of practice for that matter, but even the effort to concentrate, whether you're doing deity practice, but the effort to concentrate for a few minutes, what you're doing for that few minutes is stepping out of your head, attempting to step back, aren't you? You're stepping away, because normally all the stuff's happening in our mind. We're so close, it's like this. We're kind of swimming in it. We're not conscious of it, we don't know what's going on, but we feel like a complete victim of it. Isn't it? But even for 5 minutes, making the effort to focus on something, you naturally, because you're making an effort, you're stepping away, so you can't help but hear all the thoughts. Now that's my point here. That's good. We think, oh, I had a terrible meditation, my thoughts even got worse. No. They say in the text, a silent success in concentration meditation at the first of the 9 stages is you think you're getting worse. Not. That's the opposite. So because we have these misconceptions about mindfulness meditation, one, we think it's to make us relax. It is not a relaxation technique, I promise you. 2, we think it's to make all the thoughts go away. That's beyond naive. 3, you're supposed to get some kind of vision. Or 4, get some kind of nice feelings. This is just beyond naive and embarrassing. This has got zero to do with what shamatha is. When they say it takes unbelievable effort, unbelievable discipline. So you have to, you do a session, you start with your 5 minutes, 4 minutes of focus, and you even have to use these skills with yourself because it takes immense effort. And what is the effort? Is to go against attachment. Attachment is the killer. It's attachment that is just a junkie to have nice feelings, to follow my thoughts, and to have this laziness, inertia and laziness that doesn't want to make effort to not follow every thought. So it takes enormous effort. That's why years of practice beforehand prepares you for it. We're not qualified otherwise. I was saying another point and I forgot. What was I saying? Where was I going with that? I can't remember.
Going against attachment.
Concentration, renee, effort. I forgot, I lost my track. I was getting to something. No, I lost my track. What was it before that?
Letters.
Huh?
Well, letters.
Who?
Letters.
Letters. Oh yeah, okay, good. Thank you, it's getting close. Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, it's different things. So when, normally most of us haven't come into this life with, potential to do it in this life. that fellow was easily able in an ordinary life to get these realizations in his meditation, which means he didn't need to be in the mountains. He was with his auntie, he'd go out for shopping and come back and do his meditation because he already had the skills. That's a possibility. That's what these great yogis are like, This little boy came into this life with skills already there. So most of us don't have those skills. That's okay. So we practice. But the real point, the real point, I'm trying to remember. The benefit for us won't be that we'll get better concentration. The benefit for us is that instead of being immersed blindly in what's going on without awareness and then it explodes on top of you and you go crazy, what we will then learn to do is bring to bear into our daily life the benefit from even a little bit of stepping out of our head for 3 minutes. If we're courageous enough not to think it's a bad sign that your mind is berserk. It's normal that your mind is berserk. It's normal, but if you think that all the thoughts are supposed to go away, you'll naturally say you had a bad meditation. That's a complete misconception. The thoughts are profoundly ancient in there. They're out of control no matter what. But what we have to learn to do is have the courage for 3 minutes to simply pay attention to just that one thing, whether it's the Buddha, whether it's your breath, whatever. But to have any expectation that all the thoughts should go away, you'll only be disappointed. So when you know that's not the goal, as you progress, they will, but that's not the goal. What you're doing is it's a training. You're training yourself. It's like you're training yourself to stay on the bike. You've never ridden a bike, you're going to get on the bike. So obviously you get on the bike, you're going to fall off the next second. Oh, I tried to ride the bike, Mummy, it didn't work. Well, try a bit harder, Excuse me. Now I made myself chuck more. Down the wrong hole. So, I'm getting into this. The benefit that comes from us attempting to do any kind of meditation that involves concentration, attempting to pay attention to one thing, is the benefit is in the training, not in the result. It's in the training. And the point is, because we want to be our own therapists, which means we have to become super familiar with what is going on in our mind so that we can learn to work with it every day, be our own therapist. So the benefit of a little bit of practice every morning is that you can't help but hear the crazy thoughts in the background. And you think you're getting worse. No, you're not. You're just noticing what's been there all the time, that's all. And that's good. That's the point. You've got to change your attitude. It is good to see your thoughts. Why? Because that's what you want to work with. But because our trouble is also with meditation, we think it's an alternative to a pill. And you do it only when you have serious problems. And there it's reasonable because you can't bear the pain and you've heard that all the thoughts will go away. So you'll only be disappointed. So when you don't have that expectation, it's not an alternative to a pill, it's not to make the thoughts go away, it's not to make you relax, it's learning to focus your mind. In the long term, it will bring concentration, but in the initial stages, which is about the best we can get, goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Because for 3 minutes you're watching your breath. And you're going, oh my God, out of the corner of your eye, you hear, oh my God, these crazy thoughts, isn't it? They'll be there all the time. But now because you're stepping out of your head for a few minutes, you can't help but notice, and you should be delighted. Now I can see what's going on. Wow, now I know what to work with. Well, instead of waiting for the car to run over you and go crazy, and then it's too late. That's the wheels falling off. It's a some analogy, it's a powerful analogy. Our culture, we don't have methods to look into our mind first, because it's all out there, the problems are out there, aren't they? So for me, it's like as if we've never heard of mechanics. We've never heard of car mechanics. It's like we've never heard of such an idea. So you get a brand new car and you drive it to the ground. And then one day at 100 k's an hour you go, oh, my wheels are falling off. Well, that's just a bit late, isn't it? So we are, this is such a good analogy. We are exactly like that in our culture. We wait till the wheels fall off. We wait till we go crazy. We wait till you want to kill yourself or your boyfriend. Then you think I'm going to sneak off guiltily to a therapist. We are demented, So how about noticing when the wheels are wobbling? So when you have a bit of irritation and annoyance during the day, if you bring your own therapist because you're familiar with your mind now, you're seeing, you catch it when it arises. You don't wait for it to explode. It's so common sense, but we can't hear it because we've got these weird ideas of the benefit of meditation, you know. Sometimes we've got to have courage to want to hear our crazy thoughts, because that's what you've got to deal with. You've got to recognise, my God, there's anger, there's jealousy, there's attachment, there's love, there's kindness. Wow, let's work with this. You've got to welcome what's in there, but we are terrified of it. We wish it would all go away, or we blame everybody else. We're demented, you know. We have to want to know our own minds. And how do you, so this is again the point. We have this idea that mindfulness will help you, first of all, so concentration, there's two kinds. Concentration is simply concentrate. No thoughts, no discursive, you don't involve in the thoughts, you let them come and let them go. That's powerful. That's concentration. Then minor techniques, and this is very common, and it's all part of Buddha's deal too, you then learn to notice the thoughts. And you go, that's anger, there's jealousy, that's this. That's fantastic, that's brilliant. But then what? But part of the way we almost see this as nihilistic, we go, oh no, you don't do more, you just observe it. Well, that's kind of nihilism, that's nihilism. If you notice, oh, there's anger, there's love. Well, what do you plan to do with these? That's like looking in your garden and go, oh, there's a weed, there's a flower. What are you going to do about it? Oh, nothing. Excuse me, you've got to know what a weed is, and you don't want weeds, and what's a flower, you want to grow them. You've got to have a decision. That's called judgment, if you like. That's what we have to do. That's what botany is. So we have to have an understanding of what is in the mind, how to define what it is. That's why the crucial piece in Andrew's story he missed. He didn't tell me his motivation. The first one was selfish motivation. He didn't mention the second one, which is a motive. So the key is to know what's in the mind. Then what action you do is determined by that action. So you have to have intimate knowledge of our mind. So we're using the Buddhist model. You've got neurotic states of mind, and you have virtuous ones. Forget the mechanics. There's only two options. It's either virtuous or not virtuous. It sounds almost ridiculous, so simplistic to us. This is the model. So the more we understand it by studying it, the theories, you've got to have botany. I can be mindful of my garden out there. I can be so mindful with concentration, I can even replicate it in a drawing. What good is that? I'm just becoming stupid. I can remember a garden, big deal. If I can't recognise what's in the garden, if I can't label a weed from a flower from a herb, then I'm just being nihilistic. What's the point of this concentration? It is nihilism. You've got to imbue that concentration with intelligence, called learning botany. And now with my concentration, I go, wow. I remember when I was with Justin, last time we were here a year ago. When I look around here, I just see scrub. Boring, kind of yucky stuff that doesn't hardly grow. Justin's walking me along. Oh, look at this little thing here. He made me taste this one. I thought, what's he looking at? I can't see it. Because he knew botany and I didn't. Do you see my point? He could distinguish all the little bits and pieces. This is delicious, taste this one, do that. I was completely blown out. I wouldn't know it. I mean, I can know a gum tree from a rose about, you know. You get my point here? So if you haven't got Buddhist botany, you can have concentration. But if you haven't got Buddhist botany, you just sit there in your misery. That's nihilism. You've got to know what's there. That's why you need concentration, so you can see what's there, not make it all go away. Wow, there's the anger, there's the jealousy, there's this, there's that, there's this, and so the thing is too, when we talk about it being mind uncontrolled, I've never heard somebody say, oh, I just can't stop thinking kind thoughts. Nobody says that. So we're mainly dominated by all the crazy, uncontrolled thoughts. We know that. So, of course, we give them all this status. We think and they loom large. We think we're so crazy. And we think we're trying to suffocate them all. We're obsessed with our negative thoughts. Well, how about, I kind of think of all my roommates, and I've got all these good roommates. I've got love and kindness and wisdom and compassion, but they're hiding under the mattress and in the cupboard. They're scared to come out because the crazies are running the show. Bring the good ones out. Have positive thoughts. Praise yourself. So, be kind to yourself. Counteract your silly old anger with patience. Patience is a thought that you can have anytime you choose, but we forget to choose to have positive thoughts. This sounds almost too corny. We can't believe it. We're obsessed with what's there, Oh, my motivation's so bad. Well, change it. This is the benefit of getting some focus for us who won't necessarily get shamatha in this life. So you can see more clearly your thoughts and you can work with them. Hear them and be unafraid. This is a major step forward. When we're not scared of our thoughts. When we can be encouraged by what's there and know the neuroses are, as the Buddhist says, as they say in Buddhist psychology, they're adventitious. They're not at the core of our being. They can be removed. Then we can be courageous in seeing them and unafraid of them and be delighted to meet them. And there are levels of them. So you deal with one level of anger, you're going to unpeel the onion to the next level of anger. And you get the next level, to the subtlest level. These delusions go to the most subtle levels and to all the way to emptiness, all the way to ego grasping, So it's a long-term job. And we should be delighted to do it. That means have knowledge about what's there. I mean, if you've got a big garden, and all the, especially in the tropics, and all the trees are growing over your house and pulling up the roots are moving into your bricks and you haven't got botany, you're allowed to be afraid. Learn botany, you can fix it. You've got to have methods. That's Buddha's expertise. What is mindfulness? That's Buddhism. It's ridiculous. He's got an incredible sophisticated knowledge of the contents of our mind. That's what we have to learn. So we can distinguish all these thoughts, which is what, and understand them and unpack them and argue with them and live with them. Because your thoughts, baby, we can learn to harness them and then to grow them and to rid the mind of the rubbish ones. That's the job. Are we communicating here? Don't ask me any questions. At 5:20, it's time for dinner soon. Any questions, people? Yes, sweetheart.
What does it mean when you're getting to know your mind and you're having more experience with thoughts that you had when you were younger that you've never had before?
I don't understand. What do you mean?
Like you're remembering things that happened when you were younger than you've ever remembered before. Like, say, for instance, when you're 4, you start, for the first time in your life, like I'm 53, right? And I'm remembering things when I was 4 for the first time in my life.
So, what's the question in relation to that?
So, why is that happening through, because I spend a lot of time trying to work out why I'm got the jealousy, I've got this.
What do you mean? Okay, this is a really good point now. I hear you, darling.
Experiences.
Okay, this is a really, really excellent question. And this is getting us the distinction between the materialist view and the Buddhist view. So what you're doing is trying to look into your past, are you? To see why you got jealous. But you said you're trying to look at why you're jealous.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by that? It's a really good point. What do you mean exactly by that? What do you mean by why? This is my point now. What do you mean by why, darling?
Or is that attachment? Is that
I see.
due to
I see.
attachment, or is it due to ego?
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, well, first of all, yeah, good. Well, I'll just say, simply speaking, the Buddhist one. Okay, the Western one is what happened to me in the past that made me jealous. And we think that's why I'm jealous. That's the usual one, isn't it? But that's not the one here. We're trying to look at the jealousy itself. So because you are becoming more familiar with your mind, it's true, then because you're noticing it and working with it and looking at it and hearing it, it will bring up things because they're all stored there. Memories are stored there. And things trigger. I mean, even just hearing a certain piece of music for me can trigger something when I was 20, and I recall the feeling. It's such a powerful, you can taste this feeling when you were 20, triggered by a piece of music. That's because we've stored this stuff in our mind. That would be why. And eventually we've got clairvoyance. We can remember all of it eventually.
So it's a good thing.
It's a good thing, but you don't get caught up in it.
No.
You don't be romantic about it.
No.
So then, okay, out of interest, why we're jealous? First of all, the simple reason is because it's a habit. With me. But second, it's a function of anger. It's curious. It's all related to attachment. Like ego grasping is the root. The sense of I in the first place. That gives rise to the craving and the junkie who wants what I want. And then when it doesn't get what he wants, it's anger. They're the three main ones. And then all the other ones branch out from there. So interestingly, jealousy is clearly related to attachment and possessiveness. But then when we see the person we're attached to being happy because someone else made them happy, then jealousy is like this rage. How dare they? It's actually coming from anger. It's very curious. Because so we then have to, one of the things we can do as a practice in daily life is do the antidote. So the antidote to jealousy is delight for the person's happiness. And it's like an atomic bomb. It's as scary as hell, but delight in the person's happiness. So it's coming from, it's anger, but it's all, of course it's linked to attachment, but it's a manifestation of anger. Do you understand?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So ego is a broader term. Ego is a general term we use, but really to be very specific and accurate, ego grasping is the root delusion, the assumption of the inherent me, the assumption of the independent me. Then on the basis of this is the emotional hunger to get what that supposed me wants. And then on the basis of attachment being thwarted, anger, aversion, irritation, upset arises. And all the other dramas come from there. The depression. No, depression is internalized anger. Jealousy is a manifestation of anger and attachment. You've got arrogance, pride, low self-esteem, all the other stuff that we know well, They're all branches from these three.
Yeah, and that's, I find I'm having more aha moments, why You know, something happening.
That's the idea. That's when you're in your mind. That's very excellent. That's a sign of progress. Well done, girl. Well done. Congratulations. What else, people? Anything? No? Yes, sweetheart.
Is ego connected to confidence? Is ego connected to confidence?
Okay, again, this word ego is a bit loosey-goosey, you know. Let's look at it. But confidence is a good one. Okay, so confidence. How do you describe what you're saying? Confidence. What do you think it is? What are you suggesting it is? Give me your definition.
Not having any fear of anything you want to do.
Oh, okay, confidence in your ability to do something, you mean?
People who are very high in their jobs, for example.
Say people what?
People who are very high in their jobs seem to be very confident, but do they need ego?
Okay, I get your point. Okay, good. So we call that self-confidence. So we call it self-confidence? Okay, good. So let's look at, so here we've got the Buddhist model, and we have some states of mind that are I-based and neurotic and fear-based and distorted and ridiculous and the source of pain. They're exaggerations and distorted. So we've got valid states of mind, virtuous and reasonable, and there's logic to why they're even called valid. And they're not miserable, they're not neurotic, and they're reasonable states of mind. So we can say very easily here, one is called arrogance, which is a delusion. So all the delusions overinflate something. They all exaggerate. So I'd say arrogance exaggerates one's importance. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Then you have something called self-confidence. So think of two people. I like this example. Think of two people both good at the same thing, let's say, or there's two people who are good at the same thing, but one is mainly arrogant and one is mainly self-confident. The difference would be enormous. The self-confident person would be, because it's a virtue, self-confidence is a virtue. They see what they are, they're content with it, they see the reality, they're not overinflating it. And they're not flipping to the other side, which is low self-esteem, they're underinflating it. They're seeing the truth, and they're delighted with it, and they're content with it. That person's content, and they're happy to meet someone else who's even better than them, and they're happy to even learn from them, because they're not threatened by it. That's self-confidence. The person's relaxed, easygoing. An arrogant person is very rigid, and sort of all kind of, you know, very fragile, actually. And as soon as they meet a person who's better, it'll puncture their pride and it'll turn into low self-esteem and they get upset. How, you know, this person's better than me, I'm hopeless. That's a really powerful point. All the delusions, so low self-esteem is the flip side, is deflated pride. This is very embarrassing because we know we've all got low self-esteem and it's only because we've got pride. In other words, low self-esteem is I'm a creep. And when we see people who are better, we're annoyed that they're better than us. How dare they be better than us? That's arrogance. It's very humbling to think that we're all arrogant instead. If we didn't have arrogance, we would not have low self-esteem. We would be content. I also know, you understand me?
Yeah.
But the trouble is, darling, this.
Yeah.
I want to hear what you want to say, but the trouble is, if in your garden your weeds politely grew down one end and your herbs grew down the other, you'd be a very good gardener. Easy to see, but they grow together. So delusions and virtues are mixed together like water and milk, and we just can't distinguish. And this way of describing is not the way we think in our culture. We can't distinguish between arrogance and low self-esteem or self-confidence. But they're totally different states of mind, but they come together. So inevitably, if the danger is if you argue at something, you can easily start to become arrogant. That's why we've got to catch our minds like a hawk. So if we rejoice in how good we are and be content with it, that's not arrogance. So sometimes we're scared of rejoicing and thinking we're good at something because it'll turn into arrogance. We don't have to. Just be content with it. Be glad. Be happy. So what's your point?
No, that's right.
Do you get my point?
Okay.
I always remember years ago, I watched, before I was a Buddhist, I always remember this vividly. I saw a film, and it was a documentary, and it was interviews with famous people. And one was Dame Margot Fonteyn. I was into ballets when I was a kid. I always remember this amazing ballet. I adore her. She was this amazing ballet dancer, you know. And then there was Don Bradman, that cricketer in the 30s. They were both top in their field. And I always think about this. I think, well, if you're top in your field, and the whole world thinks you're top, you must be arrogant. You've got to know you're top. But these two people were such a good example for me. They were both humble. They just seemed humble. Self-confidence comes with humility. They were genuinely just humble, natural, easygoing, wore it very lightly. They praised other people. They thanked other people. You understand? That's only a self-confident person could do that. An arrogant person is the opposite to humble. And when they deflate, it becomes low self-esteem. So we confuse low self-esteem with humility, and we confuse arrogance with confidence. But when we understand this model, that the delusions are neurotic and disturbed and exaggerated and jagged and miserable and fear-based, and the virtues are reasonable and spacious and appropriate, it's a major difference. But this is the particular way Buddha talks. Do you understand?
Yeah.
We've got to catch these like a hawk.
Yeah.
So when we hear about humility, we think it means low self-esteem. We can't work it out, you know. It's not. It's opposite. You've got humility when you've got self-confidence, and you've got arrogance when you have low self-esteem. Actually, it's scary to hear it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
We're very fragile and insulted easily by other people, and offended if someone's better than us. We feel threatened by it, you know. What else, people? Time for tea. So anyway, only five. Yes, Tony?
Does the mind stay young, or can the mind stay young, but the body gets old?
Absolutely. You know, you meet some of these lamas, they're like little children. I don't mean in an insulting way. Their mind is light and easy and funny and simple. Yes, absolutely.
Does that mean that the mind is stuck in that time?
No, not like that. I would say that when the mind is unencumbered by delusions and all the heavy dramas, you're very light and easygoing and relaxed. That's young in the sense of light, unheavy, undramatic, you know. I put it that way.
Called the Peter Pan complex.
Well, no, I think that's kind of weird. That's weird to me. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no.
That's like kind of backward and strange. No, I mean, I was mistaken when I said young. I meant it too quickly. I really meant more light and easygoing and uncomplicated. Do you understand? Like there's no cares in the world. It feels like
I think I'm 25, but I'm 64. So,
well, no, because sometimes, I think if you're, you know, often we think of an old person, we think of a person who's old and depressed and sad and broken and miserable and life's horrible. That's just an unhappy mind, not an old mind. But if you've got a happy mind and you're old, you can feel like you're young because you're bright and easygoing and friendly and not too many dramas in your head. I think it's like that. Do you understand my point? Yeah. Which reminds me, it's quite a different story, but it reminds me for some reason. I read in the New York Times a while ago. This fellow, he's a barber. He came from Italy when he was 11 to New York, and he's been a barber. And he applied for a job at this barber shop in a city, in a town in New York State. And the woman who ran this thing got a shock when she said his age is 107. So this is a mistake, you know. And he was 107. He'd finished another job in another salon where they cut his hours down and he was bored, so he wanted a new job. So this barber, since he's 11 years old, he stands up 8 hours a day, no glasses, no ill health, no tablets, no medicines. His wife died like 50 years ago or something. He takes care of his own self, drives the car, does his dinner, and he's 107. And he's lived 100 years being a barber, and he sits there standing 8 hours, you know, just cutting people's hair. He cracked jokes, he was very relaxed, no stress, easygoing, very humble, very amazing man. 107, can you imagine? That's young. Unbelievable. That's non-killing karma. He must have really good non-killing karma in his petrol tank. He didn't die young yet, you know.
Could he do your body so far?
He could easily be, of course he could. Easily be, yeah. Easily, of course he could, yeah, exactly. So you people, I mean, we can, it's only 5:30. You have your dinner. Huh? What do you think? I'll stop for dinner? Or you have more questions? Do you have more questions? Justin, you got a question? Somebody's coming.
I did it earlier, it's gone now.
Hey? Hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, it's well in the past now, having covered this ground.
What, darling? Say it.
I was wondering, we had a chat a little bit earlier about talking with the four vices of improper speech, etc. I was wondering, and this will be provocative, a handful of, and this will be provocative, Chinese-looking youth came through and I said...
Who came through?
Chinese.
Youth?
And, yeah, I'm not being racist, I love Indonesian food, I love Chinese.
What are you saying then? Just say it, what are you saying?
And I was wondering, are these guys scoping the place? Okay, so this is all in front of...
Scoping?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Why did that thought come into your mind?
Well, there's this kind of Cold War thing going on.
Where?
All around the world, but they track you and in Tasmania.
Okay, so, yes, Justin, all these things can happen, but when you keep going down that track, you will become completely paranoid and you will see policemen and nightmares and conspiracy theories everywhere you turn. So if you're starting to think that way, I'd suggest you be very careful. And quit it.
I can't argue with that.
Well, what's the question then, dear? I'm a bit worried about you. What's your damn question? Get to the point. Get to the point, Justin.
Yes, we were talking about...
What's your question?
I was wondering if it was bad.
What's bad?
The conversation about potentially being spied on and...
I'm losing you, Justin. Can I have a question, please?
Okay.
What's your question,
Talking
Kevin?
with people, confiding with them about an issue in my life.
I'm losing you completely.
Is it
Please.
helpful or
What?
is it helpful for me?
Okay, start again. I heard this is beginning to sound sensible. What is it?
Sorry, if someone's harmed me,
Okay, someone's harmed you, then, and you're talking to someone else
it's helpful for me maybe to vent that to...
to talk about it. Okay, good. This is back to how we talked before about the wisdom ring. Then now we're getting somewhere. So, okay, we all have people harm us. We all have problems in our lives, haven't we? And our ideal scenario is to try and, of course, if we can be our own therapist and work with it. Let's say we have the view of karma, like those young nuns. They didn't have a therapist. They was in their prison being tortured, and they dealt with it because they had the tools. You with me? You with me? So we don't have that. So then the wisdom wing perspective, as we're talking here, is to try and sort out what we're thinking and feeling. That's a really intelligent thing to do, isn't it? Isn't it? But I would put the word better, not to say vent. If you want to experience, you want to have a safe environment in which you can have a good friend, a therapist, a friend, to be a sounding board for you, whom you can trust to spill your heart out. So, and the purpose of that is so that you can understand yourself. That's beneficial. If it's just to rant and rave and get more angry, then you'll go crazy. Can you see the difference? That's answering your question.
Yeah, thanks.
Good.
It's hard to find those sort of situations where you feel safe to vent.
Not vent, to talk about what you're thinking. I know, but I think it's better to change the word. But that you've got to have, if you don't have a friend, then you just be quiet then. You've got to choose your friends. Our trouble is we vomit out whatever we feel and wonder why people... You have to be, otherwise we pour our hearts out to anybody and then it's all turned into... and people use it against us because we all gossip. This is the worst thing possible. We've got to know whom we can trust. It's so important to choose good people. It's so important. Otherwise, we're so desperate sometimes, we'll just tell anybody our problems. And then it's not going to help. Just make it worse, you drown in confusion, You've got to have a person you can trust.
That person, you have to just wait.
I think so, absolutely. Or do it yourself. This is the Buddhist point. It's good to have friends to turn to. And that's the view we have in our culture. We call them therapists. But the Buddhist one's one, she's not joking when he says, be your own therapist. If we're doing this work since the beginning of our life and learn to control our body and speech, know what's going on, have meditation techniques, you really are equipped with the tools you need to work with your own self. And you won't ever lose the plot, you won't go crazy, and you will be able to deal with it one step at a time. That's the point.
Because I just see, that person who did that to me had ignorance, so that helps to...
I'm losing you now, darling. What are you saying?
But until you've got someone who you can...
No, I'm saying you don't need that. If you don't need it, you can do it yourself.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that with myself.
You sound like you're doing okay.
Circumstances, saying to myself, well, in that circumstance, whoever did that to me was ignorant, so I find that helps.
Well, darling, what you do, using this, what we're describing in this room, every word I'm saying in this room is Buddha's view about how things exist.
Yeah.
So if you take the view of karma and you use it as your own method to explain to yourself why things happen, including the good ones, then that's your method for sorting it out.
And it worked, yes.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So if you can't do that, get a friend. And see if we can learn to gradually find out a way to sort ourselves out. Makes sense, Justin? Are we communicating? But don't get rid of your conspiracy theories, please, I beg you. Please, God. Conspiracy theories is like there's somebody out there running the show. That's what a creator, I'm not trying to be rude here, but the creator view is a conspiracy theory. Someone's running it all. No one's running it, Justin. Karma takes care. So control your mind, baby. Yes, Tony?
Is there a method that you could help me with in listening to other people, but your mind's
racing away
to try and say what...
Yeah, there you go. That's common, isn't it? That's how we mostly have conversations. No, that's right. That's exactly how most people have conversations. You're chatting away and I can't wait to barge in with my story. I know, this is like a nightmare.
It's a common thing that I've done most of the
time. All our life we do it, don't we?
No.
The other one is we learn to shut up and just listen. Just listen. And if they...
Yeah, I should have a pen and paper, so every now and then I'll write it down.
That's what exactly. And you see...
Put my hand up and say, now this is what I want to talk about.
I know. Or even, you see, this is where I think the thing here is very interesting. We've got to look... This is getting us now to a deeper level of attachment. And this is what the one that really runs the show. Attachment, sex, drugs and rock and roll is nothing in comparison with this attachment, Tony. And this attachment, the deepest, most primordial, And since we're born, we've got it, is this constant craving to be heard by others, to be seen by others, to be approved of, to be validated, to be liked. This is the deepest pain we have. That's why if no one listens to us, we think we're nobody. If we don't have a partner, we think we're nothing. And that's the worst, the deepest of the pain of us. That's why we all vomit out our thoughts. We're desperately trying to get other people to hear our thoughts, but no one's listening, so we'll go crazy, you know.
Why do we do that?
Why do what?
Why do we feel we've got to be heard and...
It's attachment. It's a main disease. It's a mental illness you got born with from doing it for a million lifetimes.
And self-cherishing. Yeah?
No, you're running off into a tangent now. Shush. You've gone off into the compassion mood. They're different. They're different.
Okay.
Thank you. Tell me what? What?
Why does your octave or your level go up when you talk?
Why?
To get attention?
No, I'm impatient. Is that... I know, it was very funny when I was at dinner with Rinpoche and Roger one time, and we all had turns to bless the food. So I shouted the prayer. I said, why are you shouting? Because I'm usually doing the group of 100 people. I'm just shouting, you know, when I get excited. I'm enthusiastic, Tony. It's the best explanation.
Because I was going to say that. I was going to get a hack around and get some money to get to it. Here it goes.
I can hear you beautifully. Well, if it annoys you, I'll try and calm it down. It upsets you? It upsets some people. One person who came to a teaching in California, he wrote to the centre later, he left early, and he said that I was so aggressive, people should be protected from me. I was mentally ill, I had no empathy, and he will never come to the centre again if they ever invite me.
Well, I say don't change.
So anyway, this kind man, it was not even a Buddhist centre, it was a New Age centre. He said, Robina, I thought about it, and I wrote back and I said, over the years, many people have said to me how they like you, how you've helped them. So I said to him, I'm going to continue to invite her. He was very brave, very kind of him. It's true, I do get overexcited, I do shout a lot. I'm sorry, if it does upset you, I'll try my best to talk quiet.
Is it something you do to get the people awake in their mind?
No, it's just me getting excited. I'm over enthusiastic. I'm trying to communicate. What? What, Tony?
Shondon?
Who's that? Who's Shondon? No, who is he? She? Who's Shondon?
I know, man.
Who is she?
Condon, Gordon.
You mean children? What about her? Oh no, she's my friend. She talks this little American voice, very quiet.
Yeah, and she's got a list.
That'll be right. No, I mean, I frankly can't. I mean, I'm on YouTube, apparently. People put me on YouTube, and I'm always shouting. I've been for all my life. So I can't believe that people say they just listen to me all the time. I think, what's their problem? But some people just, they can never get enough, they tell me. I mean, I'm only quoting what people tell me. I'm not trying to believe I'm special. I can't believe that people can enjoy it.
I enjoy it.
Well, I mean, there you go.
I just told you before.
You see, even a Thai person can think. Anyway, whatever. It's true that I get a bit rude sometimes. I'm sorry. What, Tony?
One more question.
Oh, yes, dear. Yes, Tony. Yes, Tony.
Do you think it's right with the photos of the venerable nuns and the monks and that, they take pictures of you when you were 20 years ago, and then when you come to see you, it's totally different, and I go, oh, come on.
You lost me now. What are you talking about?
The pictures outside of you were 20 years ago, some pictures they take.
Well, they probably can't tell. They don't know, you see. So I'm old now. People have a certain picture they just like, they just use it. I can't help that. What can I do? I'm sorry to disappoint you, Tony. I'm old.
I've seen you on YouTube all the way through.
You have? Oh, so you've seen me get old.
Very young.
Getting old and fat.
Of course. That is a nice picture of you there, like that.
Oh, that one, that's about 15, a long time ago,
It's very nice.
yeah. What can I do? Excuse me, people.
That's the ego, you can't do that.
That's right, exactly. Yeah. It's good that I'm fat and old. When I look in the mirror, you see when you're fat and old, you realise, forget it, you're fat and old now.
And the gummy
Huh?
and the gummy knee.
Well, I'm becoming the... No, I'm going to get that better soon, so I'll be sort of less old, and I'll be less old. I'm joking. I didn't know, you see, I was in America for a while, and I tried to get medical care there, but it's like drowning in Alice in Wonderland, I can't tell you. And of course, if you blink at the doctor, you get charged $1,000, so I had to use all these, I was on steroids and opioids and all these drugs to maintain the pain until I got to Australia. So the moment I arrived Amy picked me up at the airport at 5 o'clock to a picnic. It was so kind of her. It's very Tibetan. They brought a picnic, so nice. Then he took me straight to the Alfred, to the emergency room. There were 2 people in front of me, and this kind doctor, how can I help you, Robina? No forms to fill out, no insurance, no forms, no discussions, no nightmares. And within a minute, I'd organised, they got 8 outpatients, they rang back and said, you have an appointment. I mean, I just couldn't believe the miracle. So Australians should never complain. You are like a miracle of good fortune in this country with medical care. I can't even describe to you. I can't even describe to you, even compared with other European countries. This is unbelievable here. You should be so happy. I can't tell you. Like a miracle. I couldn't wait to get to the Alfred. 6 in the morning. Good morning, Robina. How can I help you? So friendly, they say, I'm Dr. Smith. How can I help you, Robina? They're like 14 years old, And I say, I'm Venerable. Are you Dr. Smith? I'm Venerable Robina. Happy to help you. Or I say, what's your name? They tell you, But here they say, hi, who was the fellow? Ian. What's his name? David. Ian, somebody. Hi, Robina, I can help you. I said, are you a nurse or a doctor? What are you? I'm a doctor. Okay. It's unbelievable. I can't tell you. Unbelievable.
So they're going to fix you?
Yeah, I've got an outpatient orthopaedic doctor next Friday. He'll stick something in, whiz it around, and sew it up and do something. Boom, boom, then I'll get better. Wonderful. Then I can walk up the ladder again. Well, that's a big ask. So listen, it's 5:45. Let's have some dinner or something. Shall we? Yes, sweetie pie.
I was interested in what you were saying about the link between, or the explanation of depression as being internalised anger.
Yes,
Can you just talk
I will definitely do that. Okay, so we have to, in order to understand aversion, which is the bare bones word, that it's got this spectrum from anger to depression. It's the same state of mind, aversion. So the most simple one is attachment runs the show, you get that. Always wanting things to be nice. And we think that's very normal, and it is very normal, it's very reasonable, but it's called attachment. Do you understand my point, darling? And we all got that naturally. So throughout one ordinary day, this attachment is an assumption, just naturally, that I must get the nice things, which means the nice words, the nice sound, the nice food, the nice feelings. But there we are, attachment also is struggling, always feeling dissatisfied. So we're all there all the time, there's dissatisfaction. So the more dissatisfaction is there, which is in the habit of practicing attachment, then always you're looking for something to fill it up. Aren't we? Or maybe the meal will do it, or maybe the thing will do it, or maybe I'll bring my friend. So then what's happening is attachment, we're trying to get the nice things, and then the moment we don't, the wrong cake, the wrong smell, the wrong thing, the sister says that, the mummy says that, you drop the dishes while you're washing the dishes, your knee hurts, then immediately that second, and this is 1,000 times a day, aversion arises, kind of annoyance, upset, frustrated, unhappy, something unhappy. That's aversion. So a strong level of aversion is anger, shout, yell. Look, some people, do you understand? When attachment doesn't get what it wants, that's my habit in my life. Shout and yell and kick and scream. Do you understand? I never suppressed it, ever. Do you understand? So it's evident with someone like me, my attachment didn't get what it wanted. But someone like you is more peaceful nature, more quiet nature, who doesn't shout and yell, looks like to me. When your attachment doesn't get what it wants and we're all the same, then yours goes, it arises immediately aversion, but yours is kind of like a little one, and it goes quickly underneath. And you don't notice. I can't help but notice mine because it's so loud. But you don't notice yours. And then everything builds up. So by the end of the day, you've got this, Next morning you wake up, The next day, next week, next month, next year, and then you can't get out of bed one morning because you're inert. Because we don't deal with these things moment by moment by moment. If we could deal with them moment by moment, there'd be nothing to carry on. We'd finish it, we'd solve it, it would be gone. Are you understanding me?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's very subtle. And it's very deep in all of us, and we all have our own ways of responding to thwarted attachment. Do you understand, darling? So some other methods, especially when very traumatic things happen to us, the commonest one we see that some people do is literally forget it, literally bury it, out of either guilt or shame or unable to bear the pain. And then one day it's got to come out. It's got to come out somehow. And that's what we call post-stress that business. That's literally, it's undealt with stuff. Really traumatic things do happen. Some people go crazy and will literally lose their mind. Some people will go and kill in response. But it's undealt with stuff, and it's happening every second of the day. So this is quite advanced stuff. So really having this, if you had concentration, unbelievable. It would be effortless. First, your mind's joyful anyway, that's a bonus. But you're able to do it every time you thought because you've completely harnessed them all. You're in control. So there's nothing that gets hidden. Do you understand my point, darling? So we have this all got attachment, all the same, but depending on the style, depending on how deep it is, depending on the object, and then also depending on the habit. When we get born, we've already got this dissatisfaction. Now, some people have fairly. I was curious. One of my sisters, one of Justin's aunties, she's always kind of optimistic. She's always joyful. She's always she gets upset easily when things go wrong, and she's a real control freak. Lots of attachment, but she's got this ability to always rejoice, or to have some pleasure. She's always delighting in other people and herself. In other words, she hasn't got that much dissatisfaction. She's quite content. You understand, some people are like that. She's got attachment in other ways. She's controlling everybody and free, and she's funny, She's always making everything nice, which is what attachment does, but she's always happy and joyful and optimistic. That's an incredible quality to get born with. Some people are born with misery from past life, You're always unhappy, always miserable, always seeing the wrong thing. It's very deeply ingrained in us. Do you understand? This is really subtle stuff, Because in our culture, we either think it's the body that's causing it or some behaviour back in the past we've got to look for it like a needle in a haystack. Do you understand? We've got our own mind. And this is part of the thing. We've all got certain personalities. Whether they're quiet and depressive or annoyed and irritated like mine, we've got to learn to live with all this and know it's who I am and not be afraid of it and look at it. And then the crucial point is not to identify ourselves by that part of us. And that's what we do. I'm a bad person. I'm a depressed person. I'm an angry person. That's only part of us. That's why we've got to bring out the good things and learn. Because if we're always angry, you're never seeing the good things. And if you're always depressed, you're never seeing the good things. We're always seeing the bad things. We've got to start identifying the good things. That's called positive thinking. And it's not corny. It's really powerful. The sister of mine does that. She's incredible. I delight her. It's such a pleasure to be around her, Do you understand? She's always pointing out the good things, and she's content. That's powerful. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we have to practice it. As Lamia says, we have to practice being content. Thinking, things that I'm doing, we've got our misery, we might be depressed, might be angry, but I'm doing this, I've achieved that, I'm doing well. We don't believe in the beginning. We say, I'm still depressed. We've got to start remembering the good things. That's called rejoicing. It sounds so holy, but it's really profound. Slowly, we start to hear those thoughts more, and we begin to identify with the good things. Now, we know this ourselves. We're always depressed. We think we're hopeless and things are hopeless. And someone comes along and says, you're so fortunate, you've got all these good things. You don't believe it. We don't believe it because we always see the bad. We always see the miserable. That's the terrible irony of dissatisfaction, which gives rise to this aversion or depression, We've got to practice being positive, practice seeing the good qualities, practice rejoicing in our goodness. Do you understand?
Do you think it's a Western...
Not particularly, in one sense it is, because we're so... I put it this way, it's more the modern technological world where we have access to billions of things. So the more easily... You think about it, when I go up to Raldo, to the mountains up there, it's mainly incredible suffering for us simply because you're cold. I mean, we know how to get warm water and heaters and air conditioning. Just press the button in the car. As soon as attachment wants warmth, we can put the heater on. But up there, you learn to live with the cold. So therefore, you're more content. So it's exhausting. And I go up there, I'm just plain exhausted because my body's not comfortable. And I'm freezing at 10 degrees below with 39 jumpers on. You're not happy because we can. So when you've got lots of attachment, that is when you've got lots of means to get what attachment wants. That makes you more miserable in the end. Because the second you don't get the temperature perfect in the car, you have a mental breakdown. Whereas if you didn't have a temperature in the first place, and when we were children, like in Marandina, we didn't have heaters. You just kind of got cold. You sort of shivered in the bathroom and laughed. Now you'd be screaming and having a mental breakdown because you're not warm. So yes, attachment brings more dissatisfaction because we're so genius at getting everything perfect, but it's so easy to get it all wrong. The second something goes wrong, you have a mental breakdown. So yes, it is true in the modern technological world, we have much more suffering because of much more attachment. and more expectations. And when we demand, like when you go to a cafe, you demand exactly the way you want your piece of cake. And exactly, I mean, I go to Starbucks and I get coffee in America, and they want to please you. I wanted my coffee in exactly this thing, with a triple shot, ristretto, with no foam, 180 degrees, with 2.5 spoons of honey, exactly as I want. And they pride themselves on doing it. But the second it was 175 degrees, I ordered 180 degrees here. That's called dissatisfaction. You're never going to be happy, baby. You're in a car. You never get the right temperature. Never, because it's such a small place. Put the heater up, put it down. You understand? That's attachment. And when you can get what attachment wants, then it easily becomes what you don't want, because it's going to change. So therefore more misery, more aversion, more depression, more anger, more craziness. Yes. We understand, we recognise, don't we? Okay.
It's the suffering of change then.
What?
It's the suffering of change.
The suffering of change, baby, yes. But when we believe that the attachment, the cake will make me happy, and it does, but you keep eating it, waiting for more happiness, and now you want to vomit. So the suffering of change turns into the suffering of suffering. That's the tragedy. And all Buddha says, well, babies, if you get the happiness that I'm talking about you can get, it won't change into suffering. That's a practical issue. That's your own mind, So give up delusions, you'll get so blissful you won't believe it. It's really simple words, but kind of mind-boggling, but the hardest job we'll ever do. You understand? Time for dinner. Let's think about dinner differently. Let's think about dinner, let's say in terms of now emptiness. We'll talk about emptiness later. Let's think of dinner has no inherent nature. What this means is we're anticipating dinner, okay? We don't try to walk over there. Oh, where's dinner? You know it's down there. So you walk in the right direction, and attachment drives us to dinner. Normal, it's ordinary life. It's okay, no worry about it. And you're anticipating what dinner is. So you're hoping, naturally, we're all hoping that it'll be the dinner that I want, naturally. If I'm attached to food, so I'll see it, there's the right temperature, the wrong this, the plate's not hot, I want that, I want this way, that way, the coffee this way. It's just neurotic, It's me. I'm sure you people are different. It's okay. So you have all these expectations which you don't realise. We have the assumption, attachment here as an assumption that I will get what my attachment wants. So when you see the delicious thing, oh, that's delicious, look at that, oh, thank you so much, Frank, But if you see the thing you don't want, you try to be polite, but you're not happy, So we won't see it that way. We're going to see it as realising that everything down there in the dinner, the plates, the things, whatever's there, the forks, the knives, the plates, the beans, whatever's there, has no inherent nature. There's no plateness, spoonness, foodness there. It's all coming from here. This is the real meaning of emptiness. There's nothing there that gives it that meaning. It's all coming from our mind. This sounds really demented to us, because the way it appears to us is everything is on that plate, and I'm this innocent victim, and look at that delicious food, and what choice do I have but to eat it? It's not my fault, Or the food's ugly. Of course I'm going to be unhappy. It's not my fault. That's the view of ego. Ridiculous. So we see it as no inherent nature. So then we do a little kind of offering. Now we visualize it all disappearing into space. So let me imagine all the food now in a big container in the sky. And we bless it with the energy of the enlightened body, speech and mind of all the Buddhas. Om Ahung melts into it. These 3 Sanskrit syllables that represent enlightened body, speech and mind, melting into it and making it delicious, transcendental nectar, as big as the universe. Just use your creative imagination. Every thought counts. So now the main thing, as Lama Zopa says, is we should offer it. So we think, all the holy beings, all the suffering sentient beings pervading space. And then we think, we've got to offer this. If we could, we would offer it to every single holy being, every single sentient being. So then imagine all these beings, all these happy ones and suffering ones and suffering sentient beings and holy ones, they all experience the delight of receiving this delicious food. We see them all experiencing the joy of receiving it. Lama Sankhe, Lama Che, Dejim Lama Gedante, Kungi Jeba Lama Che, Lama Namla Che Pabung. So that 1 minute of thoughts, okay, that was a bunch of thoughts. They completely dominated the attachment thoughts. The attachment thoughts disappeared. And as Lama Zopa says, those thoughts are so powerful, just those thoughts of generosity, those thoughts of virtue, are so amazing that even though the attachment's still there, that completing the outcome changes the action of eating dinner because our motivation changed. So he says, now once you've done that, the bigger our stomachs, the better. So please enjoy. It's all virtue now. Shove it in to the happy mind. Remembering their kindness as well.